If you're the kind of woman who's ever been told to just keep the peace, who's swallowed your pride to avoid being labeled dramatic, who rebuilt yourself so quietly that no one even noticed you were gone, this story is for you. Especially if you've ever had someone smile sweetly while dismantling your entire future. Go grab your tea or your wine, no judgment, because this one still makes my chest tighten a little. My name is Isabella Marquez Rivera, and the night before my wedding, my fiancé let his mother convince him to call everything off. 2 years later, I walked into his office as his new department head. Let me tell you exactly how that happened. I grew up in El Paso, Texas, in a loud, loving, very traditional Mexican-American family, where food was language and sacrifice was currency. My mama worked double shifts as a nurse's aide. My abuela ironed uniforms at 5 a.m., while praying over each of us by name. But there was one thing they drilled into me early. Nunca dependas de un hombre. Never depend on a man. Ironically, the family I almost married into believed the opposite. The Whitakers of Tulsa, Oklahoma had their own unspoken commandment. The men build the legacy. The women protect it. Translation, you marry well, you support quietly, and you never outshine. I met Graham Whitaker in graduate school at UT Austin. I was finishing my master's in data science. He was working toward an MBA with a guaranteed position at Whitaker Industrial Solutions, his father's manufacturing company back in Oklahoma. He had that soft southern voice, the kind that made everything sound gentle. Even bad news. We fell in love over late-night study sessions and breakfast tacos. He used to kiss my forehead when I got frustrated debugging code. He said he admired how driven I was. Looking back, admiration isn't the same as respect. His mother, Patricia Whitaker, wore pearls like armor. She had that crisp, controlled smile that never reached her eyes. The first time she visited Austin, she looked around my tiny apartment and said, "Oh, how independent, not impressive, not hardworking. Independent." I should have heard it then. But I was 28, in love, and stupidly hopeful. When Graham proposed, it wasn't flashy, just a hilltop at sunset. I said yes before he even finished asking. Patricia hugged me at the engagement dinner and whispered in my ear, "You'll learn how we do things soon enough." I laughed. Thought she meant holiday traditions. I didn't understand she meant hierarchy. Their family had a tradition. Whitaker wives did not work once children arrived. They hosted charity galas. They managed social calendars. They were visible, but never powerful. When I mentioned applying for a senior analyst role at a tech firm in Dallas, a role I had worked years toward, Patricia went silent. Then she said, very calmly, "That wouldn't align with Graham's future responsibilities." Excuse me? She explained that relocating to Tulsa immediately after the wedding was non-negotiable. Graham needed to be on-site daily at the company. A wife with a demanding career would be distracting. I remember sitting at their mahogany dining table, fingertips pressed into the polished wood, feeling like I was being assessed for compliance. Graham squeezed my knee under the table, not in support, in warning. That night I asked him, "You don't actually expect me to give up my career, right?" He hesitated. That hesitation changed everything. "Maybe just for a few years," he said, "until things stabilize. Things, not us." I told myself compromise was part of marriage. I told myself I could freelance, consult remotely. I folded parts of myself smaller and smaller. Have you ever done that? Shrunk yourself to fit someone else's blueprint? Tell me in the comments if you've ever caught yourself negotiating against your own dreams. I need to know I wasn't the only one. My niece Camila was 8 at the time. First appearance, she adored Graham. Thought he was a prince. At my bridal shower, she tugged my sleeve and whispered, "Tia Bella, are you going to stop working like the princesses in movies?" I laughed and said, "Princesses don't code, mija." She frowned. "Why not? Why not, right?" That question stayed with me. The night before the wedding, my dress hung from the closet door at the Whitaker estate. Lace, hand-sewn by a designer I'd saved 2 years to afford. I was alone in the guest suite when Graham knocked. His face was pale. I knew. You know how sometimes your body understands before your brain does? He sat on the edge of the bed and said, "Mom thinks we're rushing. Mom thinks..." He didn't say, "I think." "She believes we need a prenup adjustment." Adjustment meant clause. The clause meant, if I pursued full-time employment without family approval, I would forfeit spousal benefits. I laughed. I actually laughed. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. "And you agree with her?" I asked. Silence. That soft southern voice finally cracked. I don't want tension between you and my family. So instead of standing up to them, he eliminated me. He called off the wedding that night. Not postponed. Cancelled. I remember staring at my dress. The lace suddenly looked fragile. Stupid. Do you know what Patricia did the next morning? She had the event staff quietly pack everything. Vendors dismissed. Guests informed of a mutual decision. Mutual. She even kept the floral deposit I'd paid. Said it was non-refundable per estate policy. She dismissed my career. She erased my wedding. She absorbed my money. And she did it all with that pearl necklace smile. If you've ever had someone in authority wipe away your hard work like it was nothing, drop a comment. Seriously, that kind of dismissal does something deep to you. I drove back to Texas alone, my dress in the trunk. I didn't cry until I crossed the state line. Then I sobbed so hard I had to pull over. Not just for the wedding, for the version of myself who almost agreed to disappear. The next 2 years were quiet. Invisible. I moved to Seattle. Pacific Northwest rain felt appropriate. Gray, steady, cleansing. I took a mid-level data analyst job at a logistics firm. Nothing glamorous, just steady. I worked, I studied, I got certifications in predictive modeling. I volunteered for projects no one wanted. There were nights I ate instant ramen at my desk under fluorescent lights while rain tapped the windows. I didn't date. I rebuilt. Every time I felt tempted to check Graham's social media, I opened my coding platform instead. Petty? Maybe. Productive? Absolutely. Camila visited that first Christmas. Second appearance. She was 10, quieter, watching everything. She told me one night while we baked conchas, Abuela says you were too ambitious for that family. Too ambitious. I asked her what she thought. She shrugged. I want to be a robotics engineer, but Sophia's mom said boys are better at that. Oh, there it was again, the shrinking. I knelt in front of her, flour on my hands, and said, listen to me. Anyone who tells you to make yourself smaller is afraid of your size. She stared at me like I handed her something precious. That night I decided ambition would never be my apology. Year 2, my company was acquired by Whitaker Industrial Solutions. I nearly spit out my coffee when I saw the acquisition email. Tulsa headquarters. Graham Whitaker, Regional Operations Director. Oh, the universe has jokes. But here's the twist. I just led a cost optimization model that saved our division $12 million annually. Numbers don't care about family traditions. When corporate restructuring began, the acquiring board evaluated leadership across departments. I applied for Director of Data Strategy. Did I know Graham would be in that meeting? Yes. Did I hesitate? Not even a little. Because this time, I wasn't asking permission. Before I tell you what happened next, have you ever had the chance to walk back into a room that once rejected you? Not to beg, but to stand taller? Tell me, because that kind of return hits different. Now we get to the part you've been waiting for. The return. I flew into Tulsa on a crisp October morning. The air smelled like dry leaves and distant wood smoke. Whitaker headquarters was exactly how I remembered. Red brick, white columns, legacy dripping from every corner. I wore navy. Structured, sharp, no pearls. The conference room was on the top floor. Long walnut table, floor-to-ceiling windows. The city stretched out below like a quiet witness. Board members filtered in first. Suits, polite nods. Then Graham walked in. He froze, actually froze. 2 years had etched lines around his mouth. He looked older, tired. Isabella, he said softly. Director Rivera, I replied. Hush'd, not loud, not cruel, just accurate. Patricia wasn't supposed to be there, but family businesses blur lines. She entered 10 minutes later. Pearls, of course. Her eyes landed on me and sharpened. The meeting began. The CEO introduced me. This is the architect behind the Pacific Division's efficiency overhaul. Architect, not distraction. I stood, clicked the remote. Slides illuminated the screen. Graphs, projections, forecast models. My voice was steady, warm, controlled. I walked them through redundancies in their Midwest operations. I detailed how outdated vendor contracts were bleeding millions annually. I showed them exactly how to fix it. Graham tried to interject once. I paused, looked at him. I'll address regional integration shortly. Polite. Contained. The room felt charged, like before a storm breaks. Patricia finally spoke. And how would relocating senior leadership to Tulsa support this transition? She asked. Eyes locked on me. Ah, there it is. I smiled. It wouldn't, I said calmly, which is why the strategy centralizes data operations in Seattle. Remote oversight, performance-based reporting. A board member nodded. Cost-effective. Patricia's fingers tightened around her pen. Graham cleared his throat. Seattle isn't Whitaker tradition. And there it was. Tradition. I turned slightly toward him. Not confrontational, just direct. With respect. Tradition doesn't appear on balance sheets. Performance does. Silence. Thick. Heavy. Delicious. I advanced the final slide. Projected 5-year growth. 28%. Projected savings. 47 million. And then I said the line I'd rehearsed only once in my apartment the week before. If appointed department head, my first action will be restructuring executive reporting. All regional directors, including Tulsa, will report to data strategy for performance alignment, which meant Graham would report to me. You could hear the air shift. Patricia's smile faltered for the first time in my presence. One board member leaned back. And if there's resistance? I met his eyes. Calm. Unshakable. Then we replace resistance with results. No anger, no revenge speech. Just inevitability. The vote happened 20 minutes later. Unanimous. Director of Data Strategy, Isabella Marquez Rivera. Graham didn't look at me as signatures were finalized. Patricia stood, smoothing her jacket. You've positioned yourself well, she said quietly as others exited. I met her gaze. I positioned myself, I corrected gently. No one handed it to me. She glanced at my left hand. Bare. I followed her gaze. I didn't stop working, I added, because that was the point. Outside the building, the wind lifted my hair. Crisp. Clean. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't triumphant. I was steady. And that steadiness? That was the revenge. But here's the part that truly sealed it. Third appearance. 2 weeks later, Camila called me. She was 12 now. Voice nervous. Tia, my robotics teacher says I should apply for the state competition, but Dad thinks it's too intense. I closed my office door. What do you think? I asked. I think I want to win. There it was. The spark. The same spark Patricia tried to dim in me. That night, I authorized a corporate STEM sponsorship initiative through Whitaker Industrial as Community Outreach Fund. First grant recipient, El Paso Youth Robotics. Fully funded, non-negotiable. Board approved. Financial. Structural. Permanent. No one could undo it without public backlash. Camila competed that spring. She won second place statewide. When she stepped off that stage with her medal, she ran into my arms and whispered, I didn't make myself smaller. I cried then. Not for Graham. Not for the wedding. For the cycle breaking. 6 months into the role, Graham requested a performance review meeting. He sat across from me in that same conference room, nervous. I slid a printed report across the table. Objective metrics. Targets. Adjustments required. Professional. At the end, he said quietly, I should have fought for you. I considered that. Then I said, you should have fought for yourself, because that was the real tragedy. He'd chosen comfort over courage. I chose differently. I still have the lace from my wedding dress. Not the whole thing. Just a strip I cut before donating the rest. It sits in a small frame on my bookshelf in Seattle, not as a reminder of heartbreak, but as proof. Proof that something fragile can survive being torn. Proof that tradition only controls you if you agree to carry it. And proof that revenge doesn't have to be loud to be absolute. If this story hit somewhere deep in your chest, if you've ever rebuilt yourself in silence and waited for your moment to stand tall, subscribe to Her Untold Revenge. And share this with a woman who needs to hear that shrinking is not the same thing as loving. I'm Isabella Marquez Rivera, and I never stopped working.